Today we're going to find the slope of parallel and perpendicular lines. Let's review what parallel lines look like. Parallel lines are two lines that never intersect and they run in the same directions. They will never ever cross each other. Parallel lines have the same slopes. Very important that you take note of that. They have the exact same slopes. Perpendicular lines are lines that intersect to form right angles. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. So if I go back to this picture, I can show you what negative reciprocals look like. This one has a slope of 2 and this one has a slope of negative 1/2. If I make this a fraction and flip it, that's called a reciprocal. Changing its sign is the negative reciprocal. So once again, perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. We're going to practice finding some negative reciprocals very quickly. So the first one I have is just the number 3. The negative reciprocal would be 1/3. Well, the reciprocal would be 1/3. A negative reciprocal would have a negative out front. This one is positive, now it's negative. If I start with a negative number and I flip the fraction, to make it a negative reciprocal, I would then make it positive. These two signs must be different. The next one, I have 1/4. Well, we just flip it the other direction and we'll get 4/1. I don't have to put over 1, but I do need to put a negative out front so that you can see that they're negative reciprocals of each other. This one's a negative number, so my negative reciprocal will be a positive. When I flip the fraction over, I get 3/2. In this examples, I'm just flat out asking you if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. An abbreviation for parallel is 2 bars straight up and down. For perpendicular, upside down T. So as you can see in this problem, I have 1/2 and 1/2. Those are the same slope, so therefore they are parallel. You can write the word parallel, or you can use the symbol of the two L's. In the next example, I see I have a -3 and a +3. These are not the same. They're not both 3's, they're not both -3's, they're not negative reciprocals of each other. So this one is neither. They are neither parallel nor perpendicular. The last example I have here is 1/4 and 4. Excuse me, 1/4 and -4. If I look at the fraction of this, those are reciprocals of each other and they have different signs. So these are perpendicular, or you can say the upside down T for perpendicular. In these next examples, I'm asking whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. If they're in y = mx + b form, which both of these are, it's easy to find the slope. We see the slope of this one is 2, and the slope of the second one is -2. 2 and -2 are neither the same nor negative reciprocals, so these are neither parallel or perpendicular. In my next example, I have slopes of -3 and 1/3. Again, look at a fraction form of -3, -3/1. These are reciprocals of each other. They are different signs, so these are perpendicular. You can write the word perpendicular, or upside down T is much easier. In my next example, I do not have y = mx + b form, so this is going to make the problem a little bit more challenging. I need to solve both of these for y, and the way I do that is first by getting rid of the x part. So I have 5y = -4x + 2. Always write the x part first. Divide by 5 everywhere. Y = -4/5 x + 2/5. The slope of this line then is -4/5. In my second line, I have to subtract 5x from both sides. I've got 4y = -5x + 3. Divide by 4 on both sides everywhere, and I end up with y = -4/5 x + 3/4. The slope of this line is -5/4. The slope of the first line was -4/5. While they're reciprocals of each other, they are not negative reciprocals, so therefore they're neither parallel nor perpendicular. In my last example, again, I'm going to have to solve for y, so I'll do so by subtracting 3x from both sides. This gives me a -2y = -3x + 6. Divide by a -2 everywhere. That gives me y = negative over negative is a positive number, plus -3. The slope of this line is 3/2. On this one over here, I'm going to subtract 2x off both sides. I get 3y equals negative 2x plus 12. Divide by 3 everywhere. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4. The slope of this line is negative 2/3. These are reciprocals and they're opposite sides of each other, so they are perpendicular. These directions now say find the slope of a line parallel to the given line. The given line's slope is 1/4. So for me to find a line that's parallel to it, that's pretty simple because parallel lines have the same slope. So the slope of a line parallel would be 1/4. This one, we cannot say that the slope is 3/5 because the y is not by itself. So I need to subtract 3/5 x from both sides so that it is in y equals mx plus b form. Now I can say that the slope of the line is negative 3/5, and therefore the line parallel to it would also be negative 3/5. Now I'm being asked to find whether the line is perpendicular to the given line. So the given slope is 2/7. A line perpendicular to it would have a negative reciprocal, so it flipped the fraction 7/2. It was positive, now it's negative. In my second example, I've got to solve for y first. So I have 6y equals negative 5/2 x plus 2. Divide by 6 everywhere. I get y equals negative 5/6 x. We could reduce that to 1/3. The slope of this line is negative 5/6. The slope of a line perpendicular would be 6/5. The negative now becomes positive and I flip the fraction. The last type of problem is saying whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, given two ordered pairs. So we'll have to find the slope on each one of these. So I'll do y minus y, negative 1 minus 1, over 2 minus negative 2. This gives me a solution of negative 2 over positive 4, which is negative 1/2. In the second set of ordered pairs, I have negative 2 minus 0, y minus y over x minus x, which gives me negative 2 over negative 1, which is a positive 2. This is really 2 over 1 also, and if I look at 2 over 1 and negative 1/2, I will see that they are perpendicular lines. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can come up with the slopes on your own. Alright, the slope on the first one should be negative 2 minus 5 over 6 minus 0, which is negative 7/6. And down here on my second line, I have negative 4 minus 7, or negative 4 minus 3 over 5 minus negative 1. This gives me negative 7 over 6. I've got the same slope, so these are parallel lines. Bring your questions to class, and we will work on anything that you're having problems with.